Welcome to another deep dive. This time you sent in a whole bunch of stuff about AI in education.
Yeah, we've got presentation slides, research excerpts.
It's kind of all over the place, but it seems super relevant right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's everywhere.
So we're going to try to break it all down and really see what's actually happening.
Sounds good.
And, you know, maybe you're listening to this and you're a teacher and you've got faculty meetings coming up.
You're trying to get ready.
You're trying to get ready. You're like, what is going on?
Or maybe you're just curious.
Yeah, just curious. So let's start with the basics. When we say AI, what are we even talking about?
Right. So it's not like...
It's not like robots are going to be teaching our kids, right?
Yeah. Well, not yet, at least. I think the best way to think about these AI systems is
Okay.
they're really super powerful statistical engines,
I like that.
and we feed them huge amounts of data,
Mm-hmm.
and they can use that data to make predictions, identify patterns,
Okay.
and process information in ways that humans just can't do.
So it's not magic. It's really all about data and algorithms.
Right. And it's important to remember that these are tools created by humans.
Right.
It's not independent. It's not sentient.
Right.
So it can mimic human language and thought processes,
Okay.
but it doesn't really understand the meaning behind the words.
I see.
We do.
So this definition we have from UNICEF and the Council of Europe, I think, is really useful here. It says that AI systems are machine-based. They make decisions based on human-defined goals,
Right.
and they learn from data.
That's a great summary.
It kind of simplifies it a bit.
Yeah, it helps to demystify it a bit.
Yeah. There's this term, stochastic parrot.
Yes.
It can mimic language patterns, but it doesn't actually grasp the underlying meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder, if AI isn't truly thinking, then what are the implications for its role in education?
Yeah, that's a huge question that a lot of educators and researchers are grappling with right now. And I think to really understand that,
Yeah.
I need to look at what's already happening.
Well, these surveys from April and October of 2023 paint a pretty interesting picture.
Yeah.
I mean, a good chunk of secondary school students are already using AI to do their homework.
That's right. And it really raises a very important point about AI literacy. If students are using AI so frequently, we really need to make sure that both students and educators
Oh, yeah.
understand how these tools work, what they can and can't do.
Limitations.
Right. And how to use them responsibly.
Okay, so it feels like we're at this tipping point.
Yeah, we are.
AI is becoming part of life, and it seems like education needs to catch up.
Exactly. And speaking of everyday life,
Yeah.
I think AI applications in education go way beyond just helping with homework.
Oh, totally. Way beyond.
So let's explore a few of these examples.
Okay, so the first one that comes to mind is text generation and feedback.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having this digital writing assistant, just on call 24/7.
Right. So tools like Magic Rate and Canva are already being used to generate text.
Yeah.
And then there are others that can give feedback on student writing. So imagine you have this AI, and it can point out grammatical errors or even evaluate an entire essay
Oh, wow.
and suggest improvements in the overall clarity.
That sounds incredibly efficient, but doesn't that create a dependence on AI, though?
It's a really good point.
What happens to a student's own writing skills if they're always relying on this AI assistant?
That's right. And it raises the question of how much AI assistance is too much.
Yeah.
When does it go from being a helpful tool
Yeah.
to something that hinders genuine learning?
Yeah. It's almost like the ship of Theseus dilemma. If you keep replacing parts of a ship, at what point does it stop being the original ship?
Exactly. If we keep replacing parts of the writing process with AI,
Right.
when does it stop being the student's own work?
Totally. Okay, so maybe AI grading essays is a bit more complicated than it seems at first.
Yeah.
What about AI's ability to create and manipulate images?
Oh, yeah.
This is pretty mind-blowing.
No, right?
Yeah.
So think about tools like Magic Edit. You could literally add a dinosaur to your history project with a few clicks.
Oh, my God.
The creative possibilities are really amazing.
That's awesome. But then what about, authenticity and manipulation?
Yeah,
Could this be used unethically? Could someone alter images?
that's right. It really is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
With any powerful tool, there's always that potential for misuse.
Yeah.
And that's why I think education about AI is so important.
Oh, for sure.
We need to teach students not only how to use these tools,
Yeah.
but also about the potential consequences.
The ethics of it all.
Exact.
Let's talk about language learning and translation.
Okay.
So tools like DeepL are becoming so sophisticated.
Yeah, DeepL is a great example of how far AI has come in language translation. It can pick up on things like nuance and idioms,
Yeah.
So much more natural sounding translations.
So can we just toss our phrase books then and just rely on AI to translate everything?
Well, not so fast. So even DeepL, with all of its advancements, it can still reflect biases that exist in the data it was trained on.
Right.
So there's some research showing that it tends to default to masculine pronouns,
Oh, wow.
even when the context doesn't provide that information.
So even the most advanced AI isn't immune to bias.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important to teach students to really look at that output with a critical eye.
Being aware.
Yes, be aware of these potential biases.
That's a good example of why just having these AI tools isn't enough.
Right.
We need to teach these critical thinking skills
Absolute.
to evaluate whatever it is they're being given. And that leads us to another interesting application, which is teaching computational thinking and programming using AI.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one.
Yeah,
It's not about teaching the AI to code itself,
right.
but it's about using it to teach students how to think like programmers.
Oh.
So we're seeing tools like Microsoft Copilot in Edge,
Yeah.
which can help students generate code,
Oh, well.
understand programming concepts, and even create quizzes and exercises.
Okay, so how do we make sure, though, that students aren't just copy-pasting code without understanding it?
Well, that's where this concept of prompt engineering comes in.
Okay.
It's all about creating effective instructions for these AI models.
So it's like you have to be really specific.
Right.
So instead of just saying, like, write me some code,
Yes, exactly.
you need to, like, really give it the details.
So let's say you want to create a quiz about the American Revolution.
Yeah.
Just a really vague prompt like, make me a quiz.
Yeah.
That's not going to cut it.
No.
You need to be specific about the format.
The content, the difficulty level.
Exactly. A good prompt would be something like,
Okay.
create a 10-question multiple-choice quiz about the American Revolution focusing on key battles and figures
Okay.
with a difficulty level suitable for high school students.
I see. You got to be specific.
Right.
So it's really important to teach students how to communicate effectively with AI.
Absolutely.
It's a vital skill in itself.
It is. It's not just about using the tools, but understanding how to get the most out of them.
All right. We've seen how AI can help us with writing, images, translation, even coding.
It's pretty amazing.
What about its potential in something like climate change education?
Right. Well, AI is really powerful when it comes to data analysis and visualization.
Okay, so give me a real-world example. How could we actually use it to teach students about climate change?
So imagine you're teaching a lesson on glacier retreat.
Okay.
Now, instead of just telling students that glaciers are melting,
Yeah.
you could use AI to analyze data
Oh,
and
wow.
create a visual representation of how glaciers have shrunk over time.
So they can actually, like, see it.
Right. It makes it so much more concrete and compelling.
That's cool.
And that's just one example. You could analyze sea level rise.
Deforestation.
Yeah, deforestation rates.
It seems like AI could be a total game changer
Yeah,
in helping students grasp the complexities of climate change.
absolutely.
Okay, so we've seen how AI can be used in a bunch of different ways in education.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back and talk about the why.
Okay, big why.
Why are we even bothering with all of this? Why integrate it into education?
That's a really great question. And I think it's not just about having the latest tech gadgets in the classroom.
Right.
There are deeper reasons for doing this.
Okay, so let's hear what's the big picture.
One major reason is efficiency and accessibility.
Okay.
So AI has the potential to really automate a lot of those tasks.
Yeah.
And that frees up teachers
To actually teach.
to do things that really require a human touch.
So instead of grading papers for hours, they can work individually with students.
Yeah, they can focus on things like creative lesson plans.
Okay, so more quality time with students.
Yes, exactly. Streamline those mundane tasks so teachers can focus on what they do best.
Mm-hmm. But is there a risk that AI could eventually, like, replace teachers?
You know, I think it's more about augmentation than replacement.
Okay.
AI is a tool that empowers teachers.
So a partner, not a competitor.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so efficiency and accessibility are two big reasons.
Mhm.
What else?
Another big one is preparing students for the future.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, AI is changing everything.
Pretty much every industry.
Every industry, from healthcare,
Finance,
you
transportation.
name it.
Yeah.
I think the jobs of the future are going to require people who are comfortable working with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to make sure that students have the skills and knowledge to thrive in an AI-driven world.
So it's not just about teaching them about AI, it's about preparing them to be active participants.
Absolutely. And that leads us to our next point, which is ethical considerations.
Oh, yeah. Big one.
We need to be teaching students to be critical thinkers
Hmm.
who question assumptions and who recognize that AI is not inherently neutral.
Yeah, like we saw with that translation example.
Exactly.
AI can reflect those biases that exist in society.
That's right.
So we need to make sure that students are aware of that.
AI literacy isn't just about using the tools. It's
Mhm.
about understanding those broader implications.
Yeah, the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
Wow, it feels like we're talking about a pretty major shift in how we approach education.
We are.
It's beyond just adding a couple new tech tools.
We're really at this point where we need to rethink
Yeah.
what education should look like in the 21st century.
I'm getting the sense that AI in education is way more than just learning how to code or use the latest app.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about preparing students for a future that's going to be shaped by this technology
You hit the nail on the head.
in really profound ways.
It's about empowering students to not just navigate that world,
Mm-hmm.
but to shape it for the better.
That's a really inspiring thought.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it really is. And I think to be successful in that future,
Yeah.
we need to equip students with the right skills and the right mindset.
One skill that keeps coming up in all this research is computational thinking.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
It seems like it's becoming as fundamental as like reading and writing.
Absolutely. I mean, computational thinking is about breaking down those complex problems
Hmm.
into smaller, more manageable steps,
Okay.
analyzing data, identifying patterns,
Mhm.
and developing algorithms to solve those problems.
So it's not just about coding then.
No.
It's a way of thinking that applies to a lot of different fields.
Exactly. So whether you're tackling a math problem,
Yeah.
designing a scientific experiment,
Or even analyzing some historical event.
right, it can help you approach it in a more systematic and logical way.
And AI can actually help us teach those skills.
It can. By interacting with AI models, students can learn to think like programmers.
Oh, wow.
They can design algorithms, they can even debug and refine their code.
So it's not just about teaching students how to use AI. It's about using AI to teach them how to think in a way that prepares them for the future.
You got it.
It's like AI has become this metacognitive tool.
It is. AI has the potential to be a really powerful tool for developing these higher order thinking skills.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we also need to be cautious about all the hype surrounding AI.
Yeah. It's easy to get carried away.
It is. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement and make these unrealistic claims about its capabilities.
It's like everyone's talking about AI, but not everyone really understands it
Right.
and what it can actually do.
We need to make sure we're making informed decisions about how we're integrating it into education
Mm-hmm.
based on evidence, not just hype.
So look beyond the headlines.
Absolutely.
Focus on the specific applications that have been shown to actually
Yeah.
work in the classroom.
Right. And we need to be discerning consumers of AI,
Yeah.
both in terms of the products and services that we choose
Mm-hmm.
and the claims that we're making about its potential.
You know, when we were talking about the stochastic parrot earlier,
Yeah.
it made me think about what are the limitations of using something that just mimics but doesn't fully understand in education?
Right.
Do we run the risk of creating a generation of students who are just really good at following instructions but not so good at thinking for themselves?
It's a valid concern, and it really highlights the need to find that balance
Yeah.
between using AI as a tool and fostering critical thinking skills.
Right.
We don't want to create a system where students are just spitting back information.
Right. Regurgitating.
Yeah, regurgitating it without really understanding it.
We want them to be able to analyze, evaluate, form their own conclusions.
Absolutely. So the goal is not to replace teachers, but to empower teachers.
To use AI as a partner.
Yes, a partner in the learning process.
Okay, so we've talked about computational thinking,
Mm-hmm.
separating the hype from reality,
Mm-hmm.
and the potential dangers of like over-relying on AI.
Right.
What other key takeaways do we need to emphasize?
Well, one thing that's really important to remember is that AI is not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right. It's not a magic bullet.
No, what works in one educational setting
Yeah.
might not work in another.
Different schools, different students.
Right. So we need to be flexible and adaptable in
Okay.
how we approach this whole thing.
So be willing to experiment. Learn from what works and what doesn't.
It's a journey.
A journey of continuous improvement.
That's right. And it's a journey we need to take together.
Yeah, as a community.
Educators, researchers,
Students.
students, policymakers.
But let's not forget the students themselves.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, they're often more comfortable with technology than we are.
Right, they're digital natives.
So we need to involve them in the conversation.
Absolutely. Let's empower them to help shape the future of AI in education.
I love that. So it's about shifting from a top-down approach to a more collaborative one
Exactly.
where students have a voice.
And speaking of classrooms, one area where AI is going to have a huge impact is assessment.
Oh, yeah, we talked about how those traditional tests might not be the best way to measure student learning.
We need to rethink what we're assessing and how we're doing it.
Mm.
So move beyond just knowledge and facts
Yeah.
and focus on skills like critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration.
All those skills that are going to be essential in that AI-driven world.
Absolutely. And AI can help us assess those skills.
How so?
Imagine using AI to analyze student work.
It's not just for correctness,
Right.
but for evidence of critical thinking.
Creativity, problem solving.
Exactly. And AI can also be used to provide more personalized feedback to students.
So instead of just getting a letter grade,
Right.
they're getting this detailed feedback.
Yes, helping them to really understand their strengths and weaknesses
That's cool.
and to identify those areas for improvement.
It seems like AI is pushing us to rethink the whole purpose of assessment.
It is. It's a fundamental shift.
Yeah.
And it has the potential to create a more equitable and effective education system.
That's awesome.
It is.
So we've talked about the need for computational thinking, the importance of collaboration, student empowerment,
Rethinking assessment,
the role of the teacher,
AI literacy,
Yeah.
separating the hype from reality.
the role of ethics.
Wow, we covered a lot.
It's clear that AI is already having a huge impact on education.
Yes.
And that impact is only going to grow.
Absolutely. So the question is, how do we harness that power?
And make sure it benefits all learners.
That's the big challenge,
It is. It's going to require a lot of thought, experimentation, and collaboration.
to find that balance.
Right. We need to be proactive, not reactive.
Hmm.
We need to be shaping this future, not letting it shape us.
You know, one of the things that really stood out to me in all of these materials is this emphasis on visual literacy.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting.
It's almost like AI is making us rethink how we communicate and understand the world around us.
We are living in an increasingly visual world,
Yeah, we are.
and AI is driving that shift.
Think about how AI is being used to create these realistic images.
Yeah.
Visual effects in movies.
Personalized ads.
It's like we're constantly bombarded with images.
All the time. Social media, news, streaming services.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And AI is playing a huge role in creating and manipulating those images.
Which raises some interesting questions about visual literacy in education.
It does.
How do we teach students to critically evaluate images
Right. How do we teach them to understand how images can be manipulated?
and to use them ethically to communicate their own ideas?
Those are really crucial skills.
For the 21st century,
Absolutely.
we need to be able to decode those messages embedded in images
Tell the real from the fake.
and use visuals responsibly.
To develop that critical eye
A creative mind.
and an ethical compass for the visual world.
And it's not just about teaching students to decode images.
Right.
It's about teaching them to create them.
That's right. AI is giving students these incredible tools for visual expression.
Yeah, graphic design, animation, filmmaking.
It's a really exciting time to be a visual learner.
But with great power comes great responsibility.
It does. We need to make sure that they're using these tools ethically.
So it's like we're entering this new era of visual communication,
Yeah.
and we need to prepare students to be both critical consumers and responsible creators of that content.
We need to help them to really understand that power of images,
Yeah.
to influence, to persuade, to shape our understanding of the world.
You know, as we're talking about all of this, I keep thinking about that famous quote,
Oh, yeah.
"The medium is the message."
Yeah.
Marshall McLuhan.
That's a classic.
I mean, it's so relevant.
It is.
Because AI isn't just a tool.
Right.
It's a medium that's shaping how we think.
How we communicate, how we experience the world.
And it's evolving so fast.
It really is.
What we see today is just the beginning.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
So we need to be prepared for a future where AI is even more integrated into our lives.
Right.
And that line between human and machine becomes even more blurred.
That future is not something to be feared.
Right.
It's something to be embraced.
But we need to be shaping it consciously.
Absolutely, with a focus on human values,
Yeah.
using AI for good.
Because the goal of AI in education is not to create a world of robots,
Right.
but to create a world where
Every human being.
can reach their full potential.
That's a future worth striving for.
It really is.
Yeah.
It is. And speaking of reaching our full potential, AI is already making a difference in personalized learning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, that idea that each student gets an education tailored to their own needs?
Right.
It always felt like a logistical nightmare.
It has been a challenge
Yeah.
to really achieve true personalized learning at scale.
Especially with limited resources and large class sizes.
Exactly. It's really hard to create those individual plans for every single student.
Yeah, just keeping up with grading and lesson planning for like 30 kids is hard enough,
I know, right?
let alone like tailoring everything to them.
But that's where AI can help.
Okay.
It can analyze all this data about students,
Okay.
their learning styles, their pace, the areas where they're struggling.
Hold on. It can tell like their emotional responses.
Yeah, there are some systems being developed right now that can actually analyze facial expressions,
Yeah?
tone of voice, even eye movements
Oh.
to try to understand student engagement and well-being.
Amazing, but also kind of creepy.
Yeah, I know it's a little unnerving.
It's great if it can help identify students who are struggling.
Hmm.
But how much data are we comfortable collecting on these kids?
Right, so we need to be having those conversations
Yeah, the ethical consideration.
as we develop these technologies.
Right, sure.
But imagine if we could create these truly personalized experiences
Look,
that
Sam.
adapt in real time.
It's like giving every student their own AI tutor
Exactly.
that knows how they learn
Yeah.
best.
And it just constantly adjusts.
So instead of one size fits all,
Right.
we have an education system that's truly individualized.
Think about it. Instead of everyone reading the same textbook, taking the same standardized tests,
Yeah.
students could be working on projects that are relevant to their interests
At their own pace.
at their own pace with support that's tailored to their challenges.
So a kid who loves history could just dive deep into primary sources,
Yes.
simulations, whatever,
And a kid who's great at math could work on more challenging problems.
and they're getting feedback along the way.
Yeah, guidance, helping them reach their full potential.
Okay, that's amazing. But what are some actual examples of how this is happening right now?
Well, we're already seeing AI-powered tutoring systems
Yeah,
that can adapt to a student's responses.
that's like those old school educational games.
Yeah.
But way more sophisticated.
Right. These systems use machine learning to track progress.
Identify areas they need help,
Exact.
adjust the difficulty level.
So it really is like having a personal tutor
Wow.
available 24/7.
Who knows exactly how to help you learn?
It's a game changer for students who need that extra support,
Yeah.
or for those who are ready to move ahead faster.
And this isn't just limited to like math and science, right?
No, not at all.
Any subject.
We're seeing it in language learning, history, science.
So like an AI system could track my progress as I'm like
Right.
reading historical texts,
Yeah.
watching documentaries.
It could recommend additional resources that fit your learning style.
Cool. So if I was super into the social aspects of a specific time period, it might recommend novels or films
Or even virtual reality
to
experiences.
bring it to life.
Yes, make it immersive and engaging.
So it's really a student-centered approach.
Right. It's about empowering students to really take ownership of their learning.
Okay, so we've got personalized learning, AI tutoring,
Mhm.
AI recommending learning resources.
What else is coming? What's on the horizon?
What's next?
Well, one area that I think is really interesting is AI for assessment.
Oh, yeah, we talked about how those traditional tests
Mm-hmm.
might not be the best way to measure learning anymore.
Especially with AI that can help write essays or solve those math problems.
Right, how do we know the student actually understands?
Exactly.
Are they just relying on AI?
So researchers are trying to figure out new ways to use AI to assess students
Okay.
more effectively.
So instead of just grading for being right or wrong,
Mm-hmm.
AI could evaluate their critical thinking.
Yeah. Problem solving, creativity.
Look for evidence of deeper understanding.
Exactly.
And it could also give more personalized feedback.
Absolutely. So instead of just a letter grade,
Right.
I'm getting detailed feedback on my thought process.
It's about making assessment more valuable
Yeah.
for the student.
It seems like we're totally rethinking assessment.
It's a fundamental shift.
Wow, we've covered so much in this deep dive.
We have
From the very basics of AI to its potential.
to transform everything about education.
That's a lot.
It is. But hopefully this has given you a good overview.
So for our listeners who are feeling a bit overwhelmed,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways?
I think first and foremost, be open to the possibilities.
Yeah.
AI is powerful.
Yeah.
It can make education better for everyone.
But don't just jump on every new AI tool that comes out.
Right. Be
No.
thoughtful. Be critical.
Yeah.
Be aware of the risks.
Do your research. Ask questions.
Make sure the tools you're using align with your goals.
And remember, this is an ongoing conversation. So stay informed, stay curious,
Be willing to adapt.
because this technology is going to keep changing.
And never forget the human element of education.
Absolutely.
AI should enhance and empower teachers, not replace them.
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah.
Where human intelligence and artificial intelligence can work together.
To create a better future for everyone.
Well said.
That's the ultimate goal, right?
It is.
To empower all learners to reach their full potential.
And create a better world.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the world of AI and education.
It was a great conversation.
I hope it's been informative
And thought-provoking.
and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Thanks for joining us.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep pushing those boundaries.